Hello, welcome back to another episode of the Virtual Ninja Show. Today we are going to talk about app governance in Defender for Cloud Apps. And I have Craig with me. Craig, please introduce yourself.
Hi, also I'm Greg Wiselka, based out of Scotland, and I'm part of MDA Customer Acceleration team.
Yes, and before we hop into the topic, so I would like to know, Craig, can you maybe summarize a little bit first, what is app governance in the context of Defender for Cloud Apps? Because I'm always still struggling.
Sure. I think quick definition, you could say app governance, app-to-app security capability designed for Oauth applications that register an Entra ID, Google Workspace, and Salesforce. And it can provide you with insights into what application is doing after it's been allowed in your organization. So basically, you can get visibility, and it allows remediation as well, and enforce governance into how the users are accessing, using, and how they share sensitive data in M365. And through actionable insights and automated policy alerts. Mm-hmm. It helps to detect and prevent unusual app activity as well. So,
okay, and the specifics here is that it is for OAuth authentic applications only. So, and the other applications are being handled by Defender for Cloud Apps natively, or how is that?
Yeah, so the other applications, we've got the discovery module that looks on the applications that users browsing through their computers, and then we can get the information about this through MDE or through the log collectors, right? And Oauth, it's basically we could see what the register applications with the Entra ID and how they interact with the backend. So you can see increased data on the Exchange, Teams, OneDrive. So you can see what's happening deep into the applications.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And then app governance used to be an add-on. As far as I know, it's now part of the license for Defender for Cloud Apps. And app governance, I think it had a rise similar to Defender for Cloud Apps, right? When we all started working from home, more people, were sitting at home and using the home internet to do work-related stuff. So how is that with the OAuth authentic applications? Do you see a rise there as well?
To start with, yes. App governance was part of was an add-on, so it was under slightly different licensing, but now it's part of MDA. So I think it's over a year now that it's part of MDA. So you don't need any additional licensing, as long as you're licensed for Defender for Cloud Apps, right? And definitely, as you mentioned, the rise of OAuth applications that are being OAuth application usage during the pandemic, and also rise on the attacks on those applications. The reason for that is OAuth is really widely used standard, right? And it's used by consumer apps and business apps as well. We're focusing here on business apps, but you're probably familiar with the consumer apps. So let's say you're familiar with any integration of application with social media or GitHub. It's basically using social media accounts to sign into other apps. And it's very similar with the business app. So we're authorizing users via identity and access management system. So in our case, it would be Entra ID. And so the example could be employees accessing company resources. And as you can see, we were able to provide permissions. So basically register applications, assign them permissions, and define which users can access which app. So it was all good. But then we just want to have more information, right? We want to see what the application is doing once it's allowed in your tenant, once it's approved. So, and we want to see if there's any behaviors differences. So thanks to machine learning, we can have really, really good insights here and control and prevent unusual activity with the app governance.
And what are some attacks that are related to OAuth?
Oh, that's a good question. So the ubiquity of the Oauth applications has made them so much more attractive to attackers, and they're frequently exploited, right? We see more attacks where the attackers are trying to trick users into giving consent to an app that can access and steal their data. We also see popular applications with many users that are attacked by malicious actors. And if those applications have too much access, the attacker can get access to the sensitive data, users, and services. And we've seen attackers targeting many of S500 companies. So you can see the attacks of popular trusted apps are on the rise as well. And we also see users accidentally being compromised by basically granting too much access without actually being aware of this, right? I would recommend you to view our blogs and our Microsoft Threat Intelligence site, where you can look into details of recent or example of attacks and get actually really deep dive into details of those attacks.
Okay, yeah, we always have some great threat intelligence blogs out there. So what do customers need to do now? So if they have Defender for Cloud Apps, is app governance just working right out of the box? I would assume kinda, but they still need to configure a few things. So how do we get started here?
Basically, I would like to give you like quick overview how we can prevent those attacks. So we mentioned, a few minutes ago, the rise on attacks, and I provided a couple of examples. And then I just want to mention that when you enable app governance, and we'll demo this in a minute, you will get sets of threat detection rules that are already built in. So there are machine learning detection rules that are designed to find malicious attributes and activities for those applications. And those alerts are constantly being updated by our threat intelligence and team and research teams. And they are adding as well, almost on a weekly, monthly basis. And they're adding new alerts, new threat detection rules, that are sitting there and waiting for unusual behavior of the applications, right? And those rules cannot be edited, so I won't be able to demonstrate this to you. But then we've got also built-in policies, which are predefined policies, user-defined policies, where you can tweak the policies and create them according to your governance requirements, security requirements. And I will demonstrate this in a minute as well. And out of the box policies is when we selected number of preset policies where they're suitable for most of our organizations. And once we enable app governance, they'll start working, but they won't disable any applications out of the box. So we just want to make sure that you've got control and you're not going to by mistake break anything or prevent users from accessing genuine application, right? So let's say you don't have app governance enabled in your tenant, right? So I'm going to show you really quick. This is what the experience looks like before app governance is enabled. So you can see legacy Oauth apps policies are enabled in your tenant. And basically that's the experience before you enable app governance. Once you decide to enable app governance, you need to go into the settings of Defender, click on Cloud Apps, and then under App Governance Service Status, you have an option to enable app governance. Once it's enabled, it takes around 10 hours for everything to spin behind the scenes to make sure everything is working for you. So check in after a couple of cup of coffees or up to 10 hours, and then you will notice that your Oauth access will disappear, right? So once you enable app governance, you'll notice that Oauth applications content has been moved into app governance. And I've got it actually opened in here as well for the interest of time. And then you see that you've got the Google, Salesforce, and M365 options available here. So that's the move from the legacy view. And let me just give you a quick overview. What you're going to see straight away in your tenant, right? So you'll see the number of applications found, number of overprivileged applications, highly privileged apps, and unused applications as well, right? And frequently, asked a common question is what's overprivileged application? So it's basically application that it has high permissions, but they're not used in your tenant, right? So there's potentially application that could have this, backdoor opens potential compromise, the unnecessary extra privilege for the app that it should be potentially removed, that you might consider to remove in the future once you review. But in order to review this, you can quickly select on overprivileged application and see the summary of a couple of applications on top of the list here, and then click to view all the overprivileged apps through the app governance. Then you can select highly privileged applications. So applications that have, really strong permissions and that can potentially be used for compromising your tenant. Mm-hmm. And once we click on it, we can actually drill down, get all the list of them and verify and check the API access here. Then you go through the usage status. What's really useful, it can help you to evaluate the application. It's publisher verification, certification. So if there is application without publisher verification, or if the committee use is very rare, and that could be some applications that need additional review from your side.
So Greg, when you see the list now and you see the connection type is admin, so someone created that connection, what is the regular process that you see with your customers? I mean, I don't think that you now will go and reconfigure this to not using admin, but lower privileges. So how can you find the owner of that app that created it? Like, how do I reach out to these people now?
You can get more details about the application and in the Entra ID, right? So you can, by just clicking here, it will take you straight to the portal. Mm-hmm. And then you can get more details of when the application was authenticated and details who authenticated. On top of this, you can stay, and we're working to adding more information from the Azure AD right in the portal here, so that it helps you to stay in one place and be more efficient. Mm-hmm. And also want to make sure that you've got handy advanced hunting queries where you can get more information about the recent activities. So within the last 30 days, you can verify who has granted consent for this application, right? And with that simple click, it will build quick advanced hunting queries for you.
That is cool.
And then once you click on it, you will get the results. For the interest of time, and you can see I don't have much results here because potentially for this application, there was no activity within the latest 30 days. But I've got actually good blog post with you that I was going to share with you, and it's called Using Advanced Hunting to Secure Oauth Application. So you can drill down and get a little bit more information how to investigate applications, how to simply use advanced hunting queries pre-built for you for your convenience, and how to basically investigate the details about the specific application.
That's pretty cool. So now that you've figured out there is a lot of highly overprivileged applications, and then we also had the ones that I think are not being used. So I think this is already a great overview and summary for someone to understand, okay, why do we have them? Because everything that is not being used can be hopefully removed. Yes, and it's less attack vectors here. So what are your customers usually doing with these unused apps?
Yeah, so they would evaluate them, right? Sometimes it's an eye opener once they enable app governance, and they really learn what's happening with the applications behind the scenes. So the applications that have been approved haven't been used for a while. sometimes applications might be used seasonally. So let's say there is, I don't know, some school, or it could be some exams that are just running once a year or twice a year. That can cause a little bit confusion, but we're adding extra functionality to add extra, exceptions for those applications, so that it's less confusing for our administrators, for our users, right? What's really cool is that you've got integration with XDR, with Microsoft Defender, right, portal, and we've got number of incidents and that you can review. Something that I mentioned earlier on, the out-of-the-box threat protection policies. I was going to show you an example of this incident, so you can review the incident that was raised by alerts that are already, in place, created by our research team to protect your tenants. I drilled down into just looking for those specific app governance threat detection alerts. So then we'll look into the policies as well. But now I just want to just give you really quick overview how you can use those alerts. We've got the attack story for the incident. Once you click on the alerts, you can get more information that will tell you what application is causing the issue. We've got what happened, description, recommended actions. They can follow them, and then look into application details in the panel I showed you earlier on. So basically, once you click the link, it will take you to the next screen. And from here, you can follow the advanced hunting query. You can verify data usage. You can verify users that have been using the application, if there's any spike caused by those users, and review permissions. And then also sensitivity labels. So something I mentioned earlier on. So quite often you really want to focus on the crown jewels in your environment, right? So all this information that's protected with sensitivity labels. So thanks to this functionality, you can see if this specific application, in this case, Graph Explorer, if it was actually touching this sensitive information, if they were trying to access it, and that will help you to limit the risks of data leak.
Mm-hmm. So sensitivity labels, that I would assume is somehow connected to Purview. And if that's right, if there was data, what would there be? Like, what is the information that this side panel would give someone?
Yeah, as you can see, there's integration with Purview. So if there is labels assigned to your data in your M365, then, and if application is interacting with this data, you'll be able to see under sensitivity labels that the name of the label, and that this application specifically has been interacting with this label, right? It was trying to access it. Mm-hmm. So that provides administrators with like visibility into, okay, usually compromised applications, and they're looking for sensitive data, looking for the crown jewels, and they're looking for this data that, that the bad actors can benefit from. So quite often, it's a good indicator that this application, especially if it's not designed to access this kind of sensitive data, that's the alarm bells and red flag raised.
Yeah, I mean, this is why we have these products, right? So first of all, protect, but then also give visibility. So if I would see a label now, and then I can drill down again and then see also what files are associated with that label and what were basically the crown jewels someone was trying to access.
So yeah, you can see the integration with Purview here. And so once there is any files that have been assigned a label through Purview, and then the application, all the application was trying to interact with this file, you'll be able to see it in here, and further down into the investigate in the Purview as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, to then get all the details. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
I mean, I love the overview of like all the apps right away. You see even how many incidents where Oauth applications are involved and so on. Yeah. But I think I think it's time to look into policies, right? Like, how do you configure that?
Yes, definitely. As I mentioned earlier on, you have out-of-the-box pre-configured policies, and you can see in my test tenant, I've got predefined policies rolling there, and then you can verify which policies already enabled, because you can obviously disable the predefined policies. And it's important to mention here as well that once you enable app governance, it's not going to negatively impact your application's access. So this is to make sure that those policies, they will provide you with information, they will provide you with alerts, but they won't be disabling your applications. So based on your investigation, based off the way you learn about your application and environment and feasibility of those policies and how well they're suitable for your environment, you can go and edit it. So if you've got more confidence, you can disable the application. So by editing this policy, you can basically start disabling applications. So this is the automation that can take a lot of extra work from your administrators as well.
So best practices, as I understand, Craig, is enable it, enable the policies, the out-of-the-box policies to monitor and get an understanding of the environment, of the Oauth applications being used, the activities behind it, and so on. And then slowly you will understand what are these policies, and you can then say, okay, if there's an unusual activity from an app with a priority account consent, in the future, now block the app if such a policy violation is happening.
That's correct. That's correct. And need to as well consider that the policies are a number of them, they're using machine learning, so they learn how your tenant is, how users working, how your applications are working, and basically on that, you just want to learn and verify for a little bit longer period of time if those and how those policies work, and if they are not too restrictive in your environment, right? And it could be as well, depending on how your applications are interacting. It could be, unfortunately, there are a number of badly designed applications that can trigger a lot of things. So if you're not following some best practices, so let's say there is no certificate assigned to the application, that could be additional, red flag that would be brought by this, captured by those policies. And you obviously don't want to, out of the box, you wouldn't like to prevent this application, because it could be, one of the most important application in your tenant, and it's just application that you need to consider improving security around this application, right?
So, Craig, what are examples of custom policies? So I would assume, we have a lot of insights, we create a lot of predefined policies, and hopefully cover already 90% of the use cases. But what else do customers usually create?
So now let me take you through the completely custom policy without using any templates, so we can see all the predicates, all the details that we can look for in the policy, right? So once you click on create a policy and use a custom option, we obviously use the default custom policy name, and then you can provide the severity depending on what policy it's going to look like. So you know if it's high, low, or medium severity. And then you would like to customize this policy, because it's obviously, there is no template to it. So we need to provide the conditions. So once we select on the policy conditions, we can choose from variety of conditions. So, in our example, if the policy that's already out of the box, the predefined policy, it's not working well in environment, you can, disable it and create something more suitable to your needs, right? So let's say you can add extra conditions to overprivileged applications. So if there is overprivileged application and it has no certification, then I want to, throw an alert. So, making this a little bit more sophisticated may work better in your environment, right? And then once we selected an interesting condition, then the conditions that we're interested in, then we're going to click next. And I wouldn't recommend disabling the application straight away.
Let's monitor first.
Yeah, we want to monitor it, keep it active. We can also keep it disabled, and then just once you've got approval to enable the policy, you can change this to active state.
Okay.
And then you can, before you apply it, you can review again, making sure you didn't make any mistake, making sure that you didn't start disabling all those applications. Then run in monitoring mode, get some alerts, and then adjust it to your needs.
So it means we give you basically a tool of building blocks, and then you build them in the way you need them to fit your policy needs.
Yep.
So, Craig, I think we covered, app governance, super important, enable it, turn it on. It's part of your license. Enable the rules, the policies, so you get insights. And then start looking into the insights and start working through the ones that could be a risk for your organization. If then you learned more, you will figure out that you might need extra custom policies that better fits your need. Any last words? Anything that we forgot to mention?
Yeah, I think you summarized it very well, Heike. And I think the app governance helps to answer, really interesting questions, or questions that keep our app security administrators awake at night. So thanks to app governance, we can answer their questions, or, okay, what are the Oauth application are doing with sensitive data and the users? And how can I control app behavior? And what if the application is not behaving as it should? What happened then? How can I automate this? So once we help administrators to answer those questions, they can sleep better and they can keep their tenant more secure.
Thank you so much, Craig, for being my expert on today's episode. Thank you for explaining all the great details on app governance. And I hope everyone enjoyed the episode as much as I did. And see you soon. Bye.